September 18, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. Everybody knows what happened here. This is the FOMC rate decision. They decided to cut the federal interest rate by about 50 points. So it caused this really huge rally. And this big spike actually happened in a span of 1 minute, which is impressive because it was from down here all the way up to up here, which is about 70 points. That's insane in 1 minute. There weren't very many setups today. Overall market profile, overall market structure looked like it was just very choppy. So it was very slow consolidating here. There was this huge spike up at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard when the rate decision was announced. A sell-off here, and right around 11:30, right here was when Fed Chairman Powell came out and started his press conference. He spoke for, I would say, about 50 minutes. They stopped talking about right here. Something I want to point out, which is kind of showing how incredibly slow it was today, up until the rate decision. This is from 6:30 Pacific Standard. And if you go to about 10 o'clock, that's already 3.5 hours of trading, regular hours. And then from 10 to 1 o'clock Pacific Standard is 3 hours of trading. So this little rectangle is 3.5 hours of price action. And then this big rectangle is 3 hours of price action. So it's just kind of goes to show how incredible, like, well, how really slow it was before the announcement was, and then how things really picked up. There was a lot of whipsaw up until the announcement. These candles were printing very slowly. It took about 2 minutes for these candles to print. Then afterwards, it really accelerated. But on top of that, it created these big legs that were very choppy with candles that were really large. So it made it difficult to enter trades because you have to increase your risk. And the thing I also noticed was throughout the beginning part and a little bit later, especially when Powell was speaking, when these candles were kind of printing, they would print and then they would do this crazy knee-jerk reversal, like either flush down really quickly, get really, really slow, then all of a sudden wake up again and then flush up or rally incredibly high, go like 2 or 3 points in an instant. And that's really hard to read and really hard to anticipate. So it's just wild. The economic data was at 11:30. Well, that's when Powell came to speak, and the rate decision was at 11. But earlier on in the 5:30, right about here, it was kind of medium impact news, which is building permits. So you can see from here, I took a total of 2 trades, which is these 2 squared designations. And I unfortunately lost on both. And after the loss in the second trade, I decided, okay, well, that's 2 losses in a row. I'm going to stop trading because I know even if a good setup comes up, I can't trust my intuition or my read when I already had 2 in a row that lost. So I figured it's better just to kind of wait it out. And to be honest, I'm actually kind of okay because looking at what happened afterwards, this is hard to navigate. And even if I had a bigger bankroll, these are really large candles. So I'd have to be okay taking a potential 6, 7, 8 point loss or a stop loss, which is really large. So I didn't want to do that. And it was just the best decision to just know when I got beat, which was today, lost 2 in a row, and just kind of move on from there. So I'm going to go into the trades and setups right now. So this is the pre-market. Nothing really is happening here. So I'm just in the pre-market, I'm just watching and waiting. It creates this choppy leg. There wasn't much volume, and I didn't expect much volume until about 11 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, just kind of adding clutter. I added the pre-market highs and pre-market lows, which in the end also didn't really matter because this is this gray band that you see here. Prices were just kind of not really respecting it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it just to clean up the chart, make it a little easier to read. So on the open, it sells off. Go ahead. Sells off and it looks like this green down channel. It breaks this green channel, looking like it's moving up on this yellow up channel. Breaks, starts flushing down. The first setup that I saw, now just price action and volume were really slow. So even this setup, even though I think it's a possible trade, in real time, I didn't really quite see it because I wasn't sure about this triple test, but clearly you have a triple test, one push down. This one violated it, and then this one kind of stops on the dime right where this guy is. It also has a new high. It's technically a first entry long here, second entry long, and then you technically have a third entry long, but I also saw this as a new low. I have no idea why this flushed like this and reversed. It's a first entry short off this new low, second entry short, and a second entry short failure. So in real time, I saw this, but I was a little bit gun shy. I saw it flush two ticks down, then flush up and close really strongly. So actually, in hindsight, I thought this was actually a really strong trade. But after it passed, I wanted a higher low confirmation because it was below the EMA. It's the first break of this orange down channel. It just broke out here. I don't know if it's going to reverse if my channel isn't drawn correctly. So I waited, and it sets up this higher low. So this is actually the first trade that I take. I saw it as a confirmation, first entry short, second entry short, another push up and down. So I thought this is actually going to do one leg down, push up, second leg down, and now it might be reversing because it's bouncing off what I thought at the time was the low of a range. So I entered one tick above this guy, and this doesn't really happen very often. So I entered here, it flushes up, and it only takes out one of my contracts. So I'm still holding the bulk of my contracts and my runner. So I was hoping on this next candle it'd flush up, but when it closed down like this, the only thing I could do was watch and wait. And my stop was down here, and as you can see, goes up, only rewards me on one contract, and then the rest of them got stopped out right here. So that really, I'm pretty sure it affected me mentally. And I was thinking like, well, I still believe it's going to push up because it's potentially a new low, first entry short, second entry short, count resets, first entry short, second entry short, potentially another second entry short failure. So that's exactly what happened. It opens here, it moves up. I drop in my order at the highs of this candle, and my stop is down here one tick below, and what it does is it just flushes down and takes me out. So at that point, I was feeling very triggered because I thought this was a decent setup. And then I failed to think that maybe there was a trading range here until a little bit later when I drew it out. I said, well, okay, there's clearly some kind of support here, especially after the fact that this one closed. And I thought, oh, I might actually be in a range. So I think the safety thing would have been, so this one was, I think, unavoidable because I was pretty sure that this was a decent setup. And this one was definitely a knee-jerk reaction. I should have waited to see how this candle closes before moving on. And you can see the timestamp from here to here is only 4 minutes later. So I know for sure I was feeling emotional. And at that point, losing two in a row after this tease of only letting me get one contract, I knew going forward, I would likely be looking really, really closely for a setup to try to, reduce the loss. And I know when I fall into those tendencies, I almost, without a doubt, always end up inventing setups. In other words, something looks really mediocre, but I would say, oh, well, it's obviously a second entry long, second entry short, jump in. And more often than not, they're not really good setups, low probability, and that end up biting me and causing even more damage. So after the second loss, I just said, okay, well, that's it. I can't take any more trades. I better, live to fight another day, especially on a day like today where the price action is so slow. And I knew the FOMC rate decisions coming out. And so the lead up to it will be very slow. And then afterwards, it's probably going to be kind of this crazy circus. So unfortunately, I took those two losses and just kind of packed away my trading hat. So it chops around, it flushes down, hits this, and I see what I thought is a lower high, a possible trade. Because if you saw this as a new low, it's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short, second entry short. This candle ticks up, I think 3 ticks, and then flushes down. Closes at the high. I mean, closes a little bit higher than the low, but I thought this was a decent setup because it looked like it had two measured legs up. So I actually drew it at the time, but I since deleted it to keep things clean. I thought it was like one leg up, second leg up. So not exactly, didn't mean to do that. Not exactly, actually, yeah, I think I did have it like this. I saw one leg up, pull back, second leg up, and then it's a lower high. So I thought this was a decent setup, at least to push down for at least a 1 point scalp. Looked like it would have worked though. So it kind of hovers here and then pushes up. I also saw this as a technically localized new low because it's a first entry short, second entry short, all the way down to here, count resets, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, and potentially a triple test or multiple test of this resistance because prices look like they had trouble breaking through this resistance line. So the thing that I was hesitant, I wasn't trading anymore, but I was thinking I would really have liked this red candle to be less neutral and actually close at the bottom. But this candle, unlike a lot of previous candles, is only 8 ticks. So it's kind of within the strategy that I trade. It's within the risk tolerance. So it might have been worth a chance because you're also thinking you're range bound. So you're thinking prices are going to come all the way back down to here. Then prices do kind of go down, almost hits the bottom, goes up, has a failed breakout. So first entry long, pullback, second entry long, technically second entry long failure, but this is just really choppy and noisy at the moment. I found this green down channel. It breaks through and breaks out, and then just gets noisy here. You do technically have a second entry short here, but there's a breakout of this green down channel. So I'm thinking prices might, when I saw this in real time, I'm thinking prices might want to push back up to here. So I wasn't really thinking it's a failed second entry short or even a short just yet because I wanted to touch the EMA and then flush down. It just gets really noisy. You could also say there's a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long here, it's a decent signal bar, but there's no other key entry point. Even if you drag this down to here, it doesn't quite fit well. And if you kind of forced it to try and get a touch, then you have a small violation here. So nothing really looks super clean, so no trade there. Prices move up. I don't know why it did this. There was no news that I could find out or find. Okay, it's about to, yeah, okay, let's see, let's just do this. FOMC meeting rate decisions coming up. Pushes up. I don't see any clean second entries yet, just yet. Consolidates here, pushes down. I didn't have this yellow up channel drawn yet, so there's nothing, there's no bounce here. I didn't really think there's a trend line yet. Pushes up, and it kind of bounces around here. You technically have a new low, first entry short. You have a second entry short here, but you also have a new high, first entry long, technically a second entry long. Both the second entry short, second entry long, and if you're looking for failures, this is just a very noisy area because these are just like side by side. Plus, you're running up pretty close to the 11 o'clock rate decision. Now, it was a quarter point there because they're going to cut, and as you can see, so here I'm just kind of sitting on my hands watching this. From here, as you can see, this is 11 o'clock and 6 seconds Pacific Standard. And when it tops out, this is 11:01 and 34 seconds. So in the time span of 1 minute and 28 seconds, or let's say, or just a minute and a half, this moved from down here, 85 to 55. So that's a 70-point move in 1 minute. So trading this, even if you think you have a good setup, because you could say I have a first entry long pullback, second entry long, you like this signal bar. If you entered here, this, I forgot exactly what this did, but if flushed down first, your stop got taken out. Unless you had like a 20-point stop, which is insane, then you would have gotten taken out. And on other occasions, I've seen this just flush through 20 points. So your stop, to say, well, I would have had a 25-point stop. So I've seen it flush through 25 points. Oh, I have a 30-point stop. You're just playing a nonsense game at that point. So this is just insane what, the reaction. Now, whether you considered it a good news or bad news, it doesn't really matter because I've seen it flush both ways on good and bad news. And in this case, it was taken positively and it flushed up like this. So this is like, be super aware, be super careful, stay out of this. Yes, you could probably get a lot of profit, but you could also lose a lot right here because this is slippage galore. All these candles, you likely are going to get some slippage here. So it pushes up. I don't even trust this yellow trend channel at this point because it fits somewhat nicely here, but then here it's just like nobody really knows what's going on. It's just going crazy. Then there's this orange down channel, which I also don't really trust all that much because it's just choppy. From here, to here is only 10 minutes. Look how many candles there are in 10 minutes, and look how much it has moved in 10 minutes. So this is just like sit on your hands, wait for the big boys and a lot of eager people to square away what they want to do. Lose a lot of money, get some money. I don't know. Just don't be a part of this. It flushes down, has a small little overshoots, one push up, pull back, second push up on this big leg up. I'm not really ready to enter any trades or look for anything here yet because it's also really close when Fed Chairman Powell is going to come out. And I also saw this setup. Now, on any particular day, maybe you would have considered this, but at 11:30 it comes out and it gives this presser. So I saw this as a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Break of this yellow up channel, broke, tested a new high. So it's one attempt up, pullback, second attempt up. There is a small lower high here, but it's a very ambiguous setup and doesn't feel very safe because it's far from the EMA. It has a good signal bar close, engulfed the previous, but the things going against it is Fed Chair Powell just came out. So he's about to start saying a lot of things that the market could take positively or negatively right here at 11:31. You don't have a lot of room to the recent highs. And this candle itself is this is about 17 ticks, which is really large for, I mean, it's large on any other day. Today, it's actually considered kind of small because if you look at these candles, this guy over here is a 34.25 candle. That's crazy. So here, this is considered small, but it's just visual. It is a rather large candle for my strategy. So even though it's a higher low confirming the second entry long, it just doesn't feel like a positive, good idea to take trade. So then prices move, looks like it's two legs down. So what I'm seeing in the big picture is this big orange push down, break, one attempt down, second attempt down, then a second leg. So it's one big leg down, two attempts up, two attempts down. It pushes back up. This is a localized new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Now this is probably a possible trade, but I consider it aggressive because it's two legs down. It's kind of moving sideways. You could say maybe there's a range here. I'm not, oops, I'm not ready to claim this range yet because it doesn't look very clean, but it did something that I usually like was after this really strong push down, it moved one tick low and then flushed up high. Unfortunately, this is a 7-point candle and this is a 18 tick candle, so 4.5. So it's already really large. So it's aggressive because after the break of this, you have one attempt up. This could be the second attempt. There's already two legs down. You could just be ranging. It's a little ambiguous. So I, if I was still trading, I would definitely be very hesitant to take this. It just seems like just dicey. And on top of this, Fed Chair Powell is still chatting, answering questions at this point. So the prices move up, it hits this consolidation area, then it flushes down. You have the first entry long, second entry long, but I also saw this one big leg down, break, and it pushed down once, it pushed down a second time. So it made two attempts down, hit a new low. I thought this was a decent signal bar, but I couldn't justify if there was actually a trade here. So this is what you see. There is still room to keep pushing down to the lows. It's just a good signal bar, and that's all I have going for it. There's no other key entry point other than you can argue that it broke this green down channel, hit the low and is reversing, but that still isn't good enough. So I just kind of put a black arrow and just put it in my own notes that I noticed something like that, but it doesn't, there is no reliability here for me to kind of put this into my notes as to watch out for it. But it was something that I was thinking, is there a trade here? So in my in my in my opinion, no, there's no trade here, but it was something I considered at the time. This first entry short, technically I have a second entry short. I wanted it to touch the EMA, but it fell short. But maybe there's a trade here. It pushes down, consolidates, pushes up. Again, these candles are rather large. So if you look at this R value that I have up here on my chart, that's kind of telling you the range, how big these candles are. It's like 6, 8. These are just really, really large candles for the stop loss that I feel comfortable with. So it's just like no trade zone, already took two losses, don't even think about jumping in. It's just noise city. So it hits a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. You have a second entry long here. This is technically, this red bar is your signal bar. And it does tick one tick above, but it feels very tiny. The bulls are having trouble breaking out of the range of this super big bearish bar. Then you see the result of another big bearish bar here, sandwiching this, and then it flushes down. So here, I just be very, very weary when I see this. Then I see this, it's not good enough. Then when you see this, definitely you think, okay, don't even think about taking a trade. It could bounce off the EMA and continue upwards, yes, or it could flush down. It's hard to know. Then it breaks, comes down. It's a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short way up here, but it just it's hard to trade because it's just so whippy and the candles are so large. It's just so volatile, so choppy today. That's another first entry long pullback. You have a second entry long failure. Even though it's technically a second entry long failure, it just doesn't look that appealing. And then prices start flushing down. You got these really large candles with large wicks on one side. Then you got side-by-side candles the same size and they're huge. EMA is holding prices down. And then this was maybe potentially a second entry short, but the signal bar is terrible. It needs to close lower to feel confident about it, especially when you're looking at a 575 point candle. The risk is huge. It kind of flushes down and then just chops into the close. So as with a lot of FOMC days, you get a lot of crazy chop and you get a lot of big spike moves up and down. So today was no exception. I got burned with 2 losing trades, and that kind of keeps me aware that next time there's an FOMC meeting, when price action, especially in the pre-market, you already have a good indicator that it's really slow. Also, contracts are rolling over from the U contract to the Z contract, so you still have a little bit of trading taking away from the current December contracts and trading on the September ones. But I have to be extra careful. So it's just kind of this big perfect storm of volatility and not the easiest trading. So hopefully that was helpful.